Hello in TV land, it's your boy Freelancer Joe, ready to once again get cracking. Well, ready being a relative term. If there's some buzzing noise you're picking up in the background, that is not your imagination. That is not your heart beating at an accelerated rate because you're once again watching the great and wonderful Freelancer Joe. And that's actually my disc reader running in the background. I was kind of hoping it would finish before I started recording, and then I thought, well, I could wait until it's done before I start recording so that you get the highest possible fidelity. But then, to be completely honest, your boy's been dragging all day. I just managed to eke out my training, and that's kind of got the heart rate going. But my concern is if I stop for even just a second, that I'll completely shut down again. So we're going to power through. I imagine it kind of takes effort to power through watching one of these with one of these. So I appreciate it. I really do. Yeah, like I said, I've been dragging all day. Didn't do quite as much work off camera as I wanted to. I spent most of the time working by doing this more of the archiving stuff. I moved on to my video collection now. So it's interesting. Although to be fair, I'm going to have to start figuring out what my long-term storage solution is going to be, because it looks like I'm at about, I want to say 75% capacity for my hard drive right now. So, I mean, well, so when they're ripped off of disk, they're in one format, MKV, and then I can run a video compression on it to MP4, which greatly reduces the size. So, but even then, it's best to sort out my long-term storage solution. I mean, I'm really leaning towards actually having local copies as opposed to having it in the cloud. I mean, if I can get, I'll check the price, but I'm pretty certain a 2 terabyte USB external hard drive, solid state's not that expensive. So, and I could just have 2 of those and be a lot quicker getting 2 of those and copying into there than uploading everything into the cloud and then downloading everything from the cloud. So, I don't know. As cool as the cloud is, I still like having things in my possession, you know? Decisions. Anyway, so what will we be doing today? Well, if you had joined me for Drinks with Joe yesterday, could Drinks with Joe be the reason that I'm dragging today? No, it was in moderation. Even after the camera stopped, it was all in moderation. I don't know. Maybe just the gloominess. I mean, it's still a little cloudy. We got the after effects of the hurricane that rolled through. I mean, we didn't get anything here, just clouds. So that's just funny because that didn't stop people from doing the whole panic shopping and raiding the Walmart for all the water. Presumably the toilet paper and the bread and the milk, too. Not a Mormon, but I follow the Mormon philosophy of being somewhat prepared for those kinds of situations. But that's probably just because I'm in the position of being able to do so. Hey, not exactly having dependents kind of allows a certain freedom when it comes to one's discretionary budget. Of course, that's why I have so many freaking movies and to convert to digital. So I can't say that I haven't been somewhat frivolous with my spending. All right, so let's. Okay, so that's not working. So again, the thing got captured. Let me see. When escape. Okay. I don't think it was supposed to do that. Let's save. Alright, we have lower resolution. That's good. Now the question is, what about the capture of keyboard? Hey! That worked very smoothly today. Alright. So, right, yesterday, if you joined me, I basically predicted that I would end up doing a lot of Lambda work again for the rest of the week. So let's see where we are at. And I'm going to have to muddle through a lot today because the nuances of working with Dynamo. It's going to take me a while to work my way through. But or maybe I might not bore you with that, and instead we'll just update my S3 demo. Okay. So first up, let's go ahead and take a look. As you can see, the little dot here means that I modified this and I haven't saved it yet, which means I need to still test it. So I've decided to go ahead and capitalize the AWS, mostly because I was looking at the AWS documentation and their sample code, they do it that way. So, yeah. Amazon does it that way, I'll do it that way. So we have specify the region, API version. Not sure how important that is, to be honest. You would think that their Lambda would automatically set the API version to whatever's... Okay, I could see locking it, but even then. Alright, so we have our handler. Basically, we will generate parameters from the event. Then if the parameter is correctly populated, we will invoke the service. That was the new way I was going to call it. And if it was not correctly populated, we send a response saying we're missing something. And that's going to be fairly consistent across all of my web-enabled lambdas. I moved the send response up right after the handler because it's kind of a boilerplate thing. Every lambda is going to have it, and we basically just set these headers to allow for cross-origin access. The generate parameters, that's going to be different for each method depending upon what service is being called and what's being parsed in. So we'll just go ahead and look at this Dynamo thing, for example. So here it just sets something from the process variable, or the environment variables, whereas in my contact email, it's populating it totally from the event. And the to address, I'm wondering if I should check to make sure that these two are set. As I do it here, is it possible that my environment variables could be unset? I mean, that's a very good question. A very good question indeed. I mean, I gotta be honest, I think maybe I should. But, the thing is, that message, the response is going to go back to whoever invoked it. And in that particular case, it's going to be somebody that filled out the form, so they're going to kind of complain about that. Or it's going to say missing fields, even though they've typed in all the data. Yeah. So, what I'm contemplating right now is the principle of defensive programming. Yeah. So you want to kind of, ideally, you would code to handle all of the possible unexpected situations. Now, that's all well and good, but then there's just a simple reality kind of check thing. It's like, how often does that happen? If it does happen, it'll be pretty easy to diagnose and fix. defensive coding is very useful when you start getting into things that are hard to track down. But I mean, this would be pretty easy to check. I mean, all right, let's say these values aren't set. Okay, so it'll pass the check, it'll invoke the service, and then it'll pass that to the simple email service. But the simple email service is going to say, hey, these fields aren't set. It's going to be an error, and it's going to send back a 500, which is actually what I would expect to see. So, in this particular case, yeah, it doesn't really make sense. Generating parameters really should only, should only validate against the user input, not the environment input. Environment input or environment values, if they're not set correctly, I'll let that be a 500. That seems right. That seems right. Okay. So that sets it all. As you can see, it generates this body data, which is the actual message sent from the trigger input. These values are set from the environment, and then the actual invoke service, which is very standard. Send it, invoke the service, use the method, and if not an error, send a response saying, yeah, 200, it's good. If there is an error, 500 error, and say it's bad. All right. So let's go ahead and test it. I wonder what the code looks like right now. Yeah, this was before I changed it. Alright. So let's see. AWS, that's good. Check if there's any warnings. Alright, that looks good. Save. So receiving address, source addresses. Okay. That looks good. We'll test the missing fields thing first. Missing fields, 400. That's what I expected. And let's see if it can actually send. Email sent. And keeping an eye on my email to see if it pops up. Looking in the corner. Alright, so that is peachy keen. Do I want to go into the Dynamo stuff right now? Let's go ahead and update the S3. Because there's actually... Alright. Okay, so as you can see here, the S3 one is still kind of the old approach. Well, no, hey, we've got generate params, invoke service, send response. Actually, you know what? I may have generate parameters, invoke service. Okay. Oh, all right. So I want to follow the basic boilerplate flow, right? Handler, send response, generate parameters, just for consistency. Consistency. One second. For consistency across all of my lambdas. Oh, look. I can't show you, but my inbox, my email inbox counter just went up 1, so I think that email arrived. All right. Consistency. We have our send response, generate parameters, invoke service. Now, on the off chance that we need to do some additional processing before sending a response, any other things happen to occur after the invoke service. Right now, my S3 demo is the only one that does that. I have to wonder. Oh, that's why. All right. So I can kind of inline it. So this basically sends a response and it inlines the body. I mean, I could inline. I could inline the body here. Do I dare try it? You know what? I'm feeling froggy. I'm gonna dare and try it. Alright, so SES get object. If error, not error, then on object, which is response, which is basically this guy, right? But the response is body equals this. I don't have to copy the entire thing. But key name was passed into this. It's actually params key. And I have content, which this guy says is JSON stringify content. But content is actually the data that gets pulled back or received back from the call, and the body of the data to string. Continent. Yeah, it wouldn't like that. Content. It wouldn't like that either. Content. It'll like that. And I wonder if I mean, is that really? I mean, so we have invoke service. Maybe a better paradigm would be, if not error, on service response, on service result, handle service result, which for all of these things is just going to be a send response. I'm trying to think ahead and be clever, but then again, I'm trying to be clever here. And you know how Freelancer Joe feels about being clever. I mean, if all I'm doing is sending a response, and that's really all my lambdas are ever gonna do, a majority of them are just gonna be that. Just single one-offs. Or I could be thinking wrong. It depends on how well, since this is the only guy that I'm pretty certain that does it this way, then we are going to try and make it consistent. Alright, so let's see if that worked. How y'all doing today? You doing good? You doing fine? Doing wonderful? I hope you are. Whenever it is you join me, even if it's not right now at the same time that I'm recording this, you know, hope you're doing great. Unsave changes and save. Save. Now we're saved. Did we validate? Okay, that looks alrighty. Test. And hello from Lambda. Hey. I'm not gonna say of course it worked, because if you've been paying attention to any of these videos, you know it doesn't always work. Alright, so then the other thing for consistency is going to be how I'm including the actual service. Yeah, it's small, it's minor, it's not all that important. There's three. There's three. Alright. But I'm not saying it causes an itch in the brain knowing that there's inconsistency. But it's one thing, it's one less thing to weigh upon my broad, massive shoulders. At least I think I still have the shoulder width. I don't know. I feel like I've shrunk. I'm still a big man. And that still works. But not big in a negative way. Big in an awesome, cool way. Alright, so my S3 demo is good. Oh, I don't need this because that turned out to be fine. Awesome. So what I'd like to do is when I'm trying something is whatever I'm changing, I just copy that part to an external file just in case I need to back it off. I'm sure there's a history function within my editor, but sometimes that don't always work. Alright, so we got Freelancer, we got that. What is the state of my Dynamo stuff? Well, I mean, that looks pretty good. Well, I don't think I can get the query. I'm going to walk you through it. Okay, so again, well, I don't know. Did I cover this? No, I think I started these changes afterwards. All right. So first things first. Let's go ahead and look at services, Dynamo. So I kind of reworked like all of it. First of all, I dropped my old table and I created a new one, Dynamo Demo Alpha. I forgot, I like to have those designations on the tables out, or just things in general when I have versions. That's my versioning, not 0.1, 0.2. I'm like Alpha, Bravo. Well, I mean, I do V1 and a V2, but while it's an interim, I prefer Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, blah, 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 blah. All right. No, I don't want that. Okay, and so I dropped my old table, created a new one, and part of that was so that I could be more consistent about how I'm naming these things, all caps, underscores, especially in the columns. And then so I would have an extra column, one for a numeric value and one for a string value. And that was so that I could mess around with querying the tables. That was one thing. That's the setup. And then for my actual function itself, Lambda itself, before I was using the DynamoDB document client, which I think, is it still in here? Yeah, this still has document client. But now I'm just going on the DynamoDB service itself. I think that I'd have to look more into the document client API. I mean, I think it simplifies some things, but for what I was trying to do, it wasn't working too well. Anyway, so now we're going with DDB. Now, as you can see, the setup is still pretty much the same as what I've done before. We got a configuration set up, this additional library import. We got our handler, generate params, invoke or send response for missing fields, send response boilerplate. You see the pattern and how it's much easier to just roll through to more interesting things. Okay, here's where we generate the parameters. So our table name we pull from the environment variable. The values we pull from the trigger input, which is fine. This is where we use the UUID to generate a unique identifier. And alright, so this is kind of interesting about how you put things into Dynamo with the DDB. So you specify the table, the item. Now this is just a single item. We could also do batch updates, but that's later. The column names, that's cool, but then here this little identifier in front, S, N, S, there are other types, but you're basically telling Dynamo the type of value that's being put in there, which is kind of weird. I'm sure there's a reason for it in the depths of the minutia. I could figure out. Old school database design. I mean, you define the table beforehand. You say, okay, this column is, a number. This column's a string. This column's a blob. And so it's all defined. So when you actually add things, you don't have to tell it. That's for schema tables. But then, of course, they have just straight key pair value tables like Mongo, where, you just put in a key and a value, and it doesn't really care. It just takes it. So I assume that part of the reason that Dynamo does it this way is because of hashing. But anyway. Oh yeah, okay. Oh, that's interesting. So we have our invoke service, which we actually call it, and for the Dynamo DB, it's put item, and then you see we have our send response for not error and error. But you'll notice that this guy also does a content much like what our S3 guy does. Yeah, okay. And that's why I rework the send response thing. Alright, so let's take a look at the lambda that I have, and I think it's updated. And that was the right. Yesterday, I updated it yesterday. Okay. So, invoke, service, put item, that all looks right. So let's configure our test environment, because right now I put in 1. If you look at here, we've got 1, string 1. So now we're going to put in 2, and string 2. Oh, you know what? Now if I save it. Oh wow, it automatically saved it. Never mind. Alright, and let's test it. Right success. Booyah. But just to be sure, let's take a look in here. Nerds. Hey man, that's not right. Did I not do this right? Configure test events. Right. Okay. Okay. 2. There we go. It wasn't letting me save because I didn't do that. Let's try it again. Test. Right, okay. There we go. I should probably delete this, but I'll leave it there for now. Whatever. And we are about at the 30-minute mark. So I think I'm going to take center screen again because I'm awesome. And I'm going to wrap this up for now. Will I continue after this? Still dragging. But thank you for joining me. And I hope you will join me again sometime soon. Hopefully tomorrow. In the meantime, cool kid thing about liking and subscribing and commenting and suggesting. And in the meantime, take care and God bless.